the desert night. A vast, silent canvas stretched out before me. The air, thick with the scent of dust and creosote, clung to my lungs with each breath. Above, a million stars glittered like diamonds scattered across black velvet. My Harley's engine, a low rumble in the stillness, was the only sound that dared to challenge the desert's quiet majesty. The bike, a steel stallion beneath me, seemed to devour the miles, its headlight cutting a swath through the darkness. Shadows danced along the edges of my vision, cast by the gnarled Joshua trees that lined the roadside. Their silhouettes, twisted and ancient, seemed to watch my passage with knowing eyes. The road, a ribbon of asphalt unfurling before me, beckoned me onward. I should have left earlier. The thought echoed in my mind, a whisper against the roar of the engine. But the road has a way of dictating its own terms, its own timetable. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple before I finally succumbed to its call. California, with its golden beaches and endless sunshine, felt a world away. A lifetime ago, it seemed. The memory of its warmth, its vibrant energy, was a bittersweet ache in my chest. But the desert held a different kind of beauty, a stark, unforgiving beauty that spoke to something deep within my soul. Out here, beneath the vast expanse of the night sky, I could almost believe that I was the only soul for 1,000 miles. The desert night was a familiar comfort, a shroud of darkness that enveloped me, shielding me from the world. Out here, there were no expectations, no demands, just the open road and the steady hum of my engine. I rode on, the miles falling away beneath my wheels. The air grew cooler as the night deepened, and I pulled my leather jacket tighter around me. The stars above seemed to multiply, their light growing brighter in the absence of the sun. I didn't know how long I had been riding. Time seemed to lose all meaning out here in the desert, but I didn't care. For now, I was content to simply ride, to lose myself in the rhythm of the road, the wind in my hair, and the endless expanse of the night sky overhead. California. The name echoed in my mind, a distant siren song. I could almost feel the sun on my skin, the salt spray of the ocean on my face. But California was another life, another me. The man I was before the road claimed me, before the open highway became my only true companion. I had traded it all for this. The comfort of four walls, a steady job, the illusion of security, all of it gone, exchanged for the freedom of two wheels and the open road. It was a price I was willing to pay, even if it meant leaving behind everything I had ever known. My Harley, a steel and chrome beast, was my only constant now. She was a fickle mistress, demanding and unforgiving, but she was also my salvation. Her engine, a roaring heartbeat beneath me, was the sound of freedom. The wind screaming past my ears, the vibration of the handlebars in my grip. It was all I needed to feel alive. The road whispers to those who listen. It speaks in the rustling of the wind through the sagebrush, in the screech of a hawk circling overhead. It tells stories of distant places, of forgotten dreams, of lives lived on the edge of the map. I had learned to listen to its whispers, to trust its guidance, even when it led me down paths I never expected to travel. The road had a way of testing you, of pushing you to your limits, but it also had a way of rewarding those who dared to follow where it led. This journey, like all the others, had been fraught with challenges. A broken fuel line in the middle of nowhere, a flat tire in a dust storm, the constant threat of running out of gas miles from civilization. But I had learned to adapt, to improvise, to trust my instincts. The desert night was full of shadows. They danced at the edge of my vision, twisting and turning in the moonlight. I knew they were just tricks of the light, but sometimes late at night when I was tired and my mind wandered, I couldn't help but feel like I was being watched. I had learned to live with the fear, to embrace the uncertainty of the road. Out here, every mile was a gamble, every turn a roll of the dice. But that was part of the allure, the knowledge that anything could happen, that fate could turn on a dime. I took another swig from my flask, the cheap whiskey burning a trail down my throat. It wouldn't be long now. I could feel it in my bones. The sun would be rising soon, painting the eastern sky with fingers of gold and crimson, and then I would ride on into the heart of the unknown. The desert night, once a comforting blanket, turned on me without warning. The silence, so complete just moments before, was shattered by a sound like 1,000 screaming eagles. A blinding light, brighter than a dozen suns, ripped through the darkness, searing my eyes and stealing my breath. My Harley bucked beneath me, a wild thing suddenly startled. Instinct took over. I twisted the throttle, urging the bike forward, away from the impossible light that seemed to devour the world behind me. The roar of the engine was a primal scream against the impossible, a desperate prayer against the unknown. Fear, cold and sharp, sliced through the haze of whiskey and exhaustion. My heart pounded against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat urging me onward. The road ahead, lost in the glare, became a blur of black and white, a tunnel through the heart of the impossible. Phantom sun. Then, as quickly as it arrived, the light vanished. The desert night snapped back into place, the silence even more profound after the assault of sound and fury. I eased back on the throttle, my chest heaving, my senses still reeling. The stars, hidden behind a veil of afterimages, swam back into view. Their familiar patterns, distorted and strange, mocked me with their normalcy. The desert wind, cool against my sweat-soaked skin, whispered through the sagebrush, carrying the scent of dust and something else, and something metallic and sharp. Had I imagined it? A trick of the light? A hallucination brought on by exhaustion and the cheap whiskey burning a hole in my gut? I shook my head, trying to clear the cobwebs, to grasp at some semblance of reason. Whispers of doubt. I pulled over to the side of the road, the Harley's engine ticking as it cooled. The silence pressed in on me, broken only by the rasp of my own breath. Doubt, insidious and cold, crept in alongside the silence. Had I really seen what I thought I saw? Or had the desert, with its strange magic and whispered secrets, finally claimed a piece of my sanity? Dismounting, I felt a sudden wave of dizziness. The ground seemed to sway beneath my feet. I leaned against the bike, my hand gripping the handlebars for support. My vision blurred, the stars overhead swirling in a dizzying dance. A low groan escaped my lips, a sound of pain and confusion. I had pushed myself too hard, ridden too long without rest. The desert, I knew, could be unforgiving to those who underestimated its power. And tonight, it seemed, the desert had chosen to remind me of its dominion. Eerie calm. The darkness returned. A welcome balm after the assault of the blinding light. A strange calm settled over me, a sense of unreality clinging to the edges of my mind. The desert night, once a source of unease, now felt like a sanctuary, the familiar silence a soothing presence. My Harley rumbled beneath me, a reassuring vibration against my legs. I eased back onto the road, the rhythm of the engine a steady beat against the silence. The stars, now clear and sharp, wheeled overhead, indifferent to the strange spectacle I had witnessed. I rode on, each mile a step further away from the impossible. The desert stretched before me, a vast, empty canvas under the watchful gaze of the stars. The wind, still whispering through the sagebrush, carried the faint scent of ozone, a lingering reminder of the night's strange event. The peace was not to last. Without warning, the sky exploded once more. A dozen suns, burning with an unearthly light, ignited the darkness, searing my eyes with their fury. I cried out, not in fear but in defiance, a primal scream against the impossible. The heat was instant, unbearable. My skin prickled, burned, as if caught in the heart of a furnace. The desert floor, illuminated in stark relief, rushed towards me, a terrifying landscape painted in shades of white and black. My Harley, caught in the maelstrom of light and energy, veered sharply. I fought for control, my muscles screaming in protest, the handlebars slick with sweat. The roar of the engine was swallowed by the overwhelming silence that followed the initial blast. And then silence. Absolute, terrifying silence. The lights vanished, leaving behind an afterimage burned onto my retinas. The desert, plunged back into darkness, seemed to hold its breath, the air thick with anticipation. My Harley, its engine sputtering, coasted to a stop. I sagged against the handlebars, my body trembling, my mind a jumble of confusion and disorientation. I could feel the heat radiating from the asphalt, the scent of ozone sharp and acrid in my nostrils. I tried to push myself up, but my arms felt weak, unresponsive. My vision swam, the darkness punctuated by dancing points of light. The desert, I realized with a chilling certainty, had finally broken me. The couch welcomed me back like a familiar sin. Its worn cushions, molded to the shape of countless restless nights, offered a deceptive comfort. I lay there, adrift in the space between wakefulness and sleep, my thoughts fragmented, a mosaic of desert landscapes and blinding lights. Pain, sharp and insistent, throbbed behind my eyelids. My skin, hot to the touch, felt as though it had been scorched by the desert sun. But the sun hadn't touched me, not like that. The memory of the blinding light, the searing heat, sent a shiver down my spine. I forced my eyes open, the world swimming into focus. The familiar living room, bathed in the soft light of morning, offered no explanation for the chaos that swirled within my mind. The silence, broken only by the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway, was deafening, amplifying the questions that clawed at the edges of my consciousness. Mary. Her name, a whispered prayer, escaped my lips, tasting of desperation and dust. The scent of her perfume, faint but familiar, lingered in the air, a phantom presence in the empty room. I reached for her, needing her grounding touch, her unwavering belief in the face of the impossible. But my fingers closed on empty air. The space beside me on the couch, empty but still scented of her body, mocked me with its emptiness. Her bed, I knew, would be cold, the sheets undisturbed. She was gone. Why, I didn't know. Why, I couldn't fathom. The desert, I realized with a growing sense of unease, had followed me home. It had seeped into my reality, blurring the lines between what was real and what existed only in the flickering shadows of my mind. Had the road, my constant companion, finally led me astray, stranded me in a desolate landscape of my own making? The burn of cheap whiskey, familiar and unwelcome, did little to quell the rising panic. I sat there in the silence of the empty house, the weight of unanswered questions pressing down on me, suffocating me. Had it all been a dream? A hallucination brought on by fatigue, fueled by the endless miles and the cheap whiskey I used to numb the loneliness? I examined my hands, searching for traces of the desert dust, the phantom sting of the phantom sun. Outside, bathed in the harsh California sun, my Harley stood, a silent sentinel. Her chrome gleamed, reflecting the light like a beacon, but her silence was a lie. She held the answers, I knew it. She had borne witness to the night's strange events, her steel frame absorbing the secrets of the desert. But the answers, for now, remained elusive, locked away behind the impenetrable gaze of her headlight. The road, I knew, had a way of revealing its truths in its own time, and I, a weary traveler, had no choice but to wait. California dreaming. The old song echoed in my mind, a stark contrast to the desolate landscapes I had just traversed or dreamt I had. The sunlight streaming through the dusty windows felt foreign, too bright, too intense. It clung to my skin, a phantom heat that mirrored the desert's cruel embrace. My body ached with a weariness that ran deeper than bone-tired exhaustion. It was the weariness of a soul stretched thin, caught between the familiar and the unknown, tethered to reality by the thinnest of threads. Was this my reality? This quiet house, the now empty space, the faint scent of Mary's perfume lingering in the air like a forgotten promise. I closed my eyes, seeking solace in the darkness, but the desert followed. The blinding light, the searing heat, the taste of ozone and fear, all replayed behind my eyelids, a cruel film reel projected onto the backs of my eyes. My breath caught in my throat, a silent scream trapped within my chest. The roar of my Harley, a familiar thunder in the silence, called to me from the driveway. She sat there bathed in the California sun, a chrome and steel phoenix rising from the ashes of the night. Had I ridden her last night, or had the desert conjured her from my subconscious, a figment of my exhaustion-fueled imagination? I had to know. Pushing myself to my feet, ignoring the protest of my aching muscles, I stumbled towards the door. Each step was a victory, a reaffirmation of my connection to the tangible world. The sun, warm on my face, felt like a benediction, a promise of normalcy in a world gone askew. The Harley, as I approached, seemed to vibrate with a life of her own. Her engine, silent but potent, hummed with a subdued energy, a coiled spring waiting to be unleashed. The road, I knew, would call to me again. It always did, and this time I wasn't sure if I had the strength to resist its siren song. The desert, I realized, doesn't give up its secrets easily. It holds them close, whispering them on the wind, painting them in the shifting sands, but never quite revealing the truth. I was left with fragments, shards of memory and experience, impossible to piece together into a coherent whole. Had I stumbled into some forbidden pocket of the desert, a place where the veil between realities thinned, allowing glimpses of something beyond human comprehension? Or had I simply pushed myself too far, my mind fracturing under the weight of exhaustion and the endless miles? The answers, for now, remained elusive, lost somewhere between the vastness of the desert and the confines of my own mind. But the road, I knew, had a way of revealing its truths in its own time, and I, a traveler bound to its rhythm, had no choice but to keep riding, to keep searching for meaning in the endless asphalt horizon.